Welcome back to Secret Weapons. My name is Mark Johnston. If this is your first time here, this is a YouTube channel where we do gear demos and reviews, as well as studio tips and tricks for leveling up your writing, your playing, and your production from the perspective of a guitar player working out of a studio. If that's the kind of thing that would appeal to you, please hit the subscribe button and stick around for future videos. Today we are taking a look at the Hosta Auto Wah by Flower Petals. So the Hosta Auto Wah is actually a V2 of a pedal from Flower Petals, and it does kind of keep a trend line going with what I have noticed in both covering and playing these V2 devices from Flower Petals. It is twofold. It is number one, they are able to pack so much into this format as a company. And two, the byproduct of that is that getting from plugging in first impressions to knowing how to kind of dial everything in this thing requires a bit of a hike. But before we get into that, and as I'm sure you're aware of based on that intro song, this video is going to really get into the control scheme of this device and kind of how to use it, not so much why to use it. That's not to say that this is not a pedal with its merits. It absolutely is. It is that I think it's pretty clear. I don't know how to use an auto wah. I don't play with wah for like anything. But what I find to be very interesting about this pedal versus your more conventional, very 70s sounding style device is there's the flexibility here to get not only very kind of classic wah and auto wah sounds, but also some really cool glacial pace moving ambient texture kind of generators, which I really like. At its core, you have the kind of very necessary and basic wah settings. You have your level, and then you have a frequency control, a depth control, and a cue. Your frequency is going to be the center point of the heel down and toe down positions of a wah. The depth is going to be basically the distance between that heel down and that toe down in terms of how low the frequency goes for each and how high the frequency goes. And then the cue is of course going to be the resonant peak of that kind of targeted notched frequency as you sweep across the spectrum. There's a little bit in the way of secondary controls on some of those knobs, but these bottom two controls right here, as well as the foot switches and these little toggles in the middle, are where things start to get really robust. So this center middle is a speed / sensitivity / secondary controls for ramp and drift speeds, and the knob next to it is going to be your waveform shape as well as your release control with a secondary parameter as well. Again, it's a bit of a hike. And that's because the core of this pedal is divided up into three different ideas. You have your auto wah, your fixed wah, and your envelope wah. In auto wah, the effect, not the city, you have 5 different waveforms where an LFO kind of just like runs constantly. You have the ability to set its speed or set a tap tempo with 5 different subdivisions, and that is going to basically be kind of that constantly moving classic auto wah sound. You also have the ability to set a momentary ramping effect on that as well, or you can set a drift, which basically allows you to set a depth and a speed for kind of variance in the speed of that auto LFO going. In the middle, you have fixed mode, and this is going to get you the closest to classic heel toe wah pedal, the old school conventional wah, where pressing down on the left foot switch will trigger kind of movement from heel down to toe down with the ability to set the speed of the attack and release of that process with the knobs on the left side. But because this pedal will let you do a lot, you don't have to go heel to toe and then it goes back when you release. You can also have it so that it goes from heel to toe, and when you let go it stays there, and then the next time you press it goes the other way. Or you can set it to by default always be in toe down, and pressing the pedal will trigger a drop to heel that returns when you release. And on the left position you have an envelope mode, which is going to basically just be an envelope follower where that wah opens and closes based on your playing dynamics. And once again, you can set that to follow from a heel down default position or a toe down default position. And at this point in the process, you might be thinking to yourself, well, that all sounds very, very enticing and cool, but also that sounds like the most things in the world to be able to remember, let alone recall, which is where I point out that a device like this also has 6 onboard presets, color-coded, or MIDI in and MIDI through on the top, giving you the ability to save far more presets as well as use MIDI CC parameters to adjust things on the fly supply from kind of a secondary device like a MIDI controller or anything else, rather than having to remember all of the kind of press and hold and adjustment controls on here. And on top of all that, you have an additional jack on the right side above your input that can be set to either be a tap tempo input or an expression controller, which gives you access to obviously a secondary tap control for a more convenient access point, or an expression controller, which gives you the ability to basically just transform this into a wah anyways. You can also map a lot of things on this device to that expression controller if you want to do more than just conventional wah sounds, but with a real heel to toe process. There's a lot going on here. I did warn you. And I think this is as good a time as any to basically just get this plugged back into our amplifier and give it a listen. The Hosta has been really interesting to get to know along the way. And as we go into those sound samples, the one thing to be on the lookout for is, like with many a filter pedal with a pretty sharp cue like this thing does come with some white noise. It's a really fun pedal. It's not necessarily a super quiet one. So just be aware of that. I'm sure you caught that on the intro track, and I'm sure you will catch that as we get into our sound samples. Let's give it a listen. As always, before we get into our sound samples, let's talk through our signal chain and the context we were working in. I am playing my Fender Eric Johnston Signature Strat with DiMarzio Virtual Vintage pickups, running directly into the Hosta V2 and then into our amplifier, which is the Sinewave Continuum Overdrive 50 watt. We're mic'd up with a Soyuz 1973 condenser running through a Warm Audio WA273 preamp. This is what our clean tone sounds like. So as we walk through the Hosta V2, we're going to go ahead and start in auto mode. We'll then jump over to both fixed and that envelope-driven mode. But just for kind of the 6 kind of core primary parameters, we're going to stay in auto mode, and then we will kind of step through to the other modes as we get into both secondaries and the ways in which a couple of these knobs have multiple primary parameters based on the mode you're in. So a good starting place is going to be acknowledging that we do have a level control. We're not going to dig into it too much right now because it's just volume up, volume down, but we will be kind of addressing it as we go, because as you get into things like that depth and cue controls in tandem, you will run into situations where you are pushing a lot of additional volume out of a device like this, and being able to mitigate those more resonant peaks down is incredibly helpful. So let's go ahead and take a look at our frequency control, which is going to be the center point of the wah. So in auto mode, it's going to be the midpoint where the kind of sine wave as it stands right now goes down and up from, and will also allow you to be kind of the starting position of some of the auto wah and kind of both fixed wah sounds and the envelope driven stuff in the future. But let's go ahead and give it a listen as the kind of center point of our auto wah frequencies. So the reason it's important to note that that is the center of your waveform and not just the kind of minimum or maximum of the range is because as you move up into those high frequencies primarily, you're still dipping down into low frequencies as well, as showcased by increasing and decreasing the depth control. As you can hear by taking depth and that Q completely out, you can kind of walk through what the kind of center frequency sounds like. And then you can kind of go from that very softly rolling version of a filter to that more wah and even into much more synthy sounds by turning up your Q. And of course, it'll go real slow. And of course, you have a variety of waveforms you can kind of choose between. We have been on sine waves so far, but we can step through a couple of the others. As you can tell, you're able to kind of morph between those. They don't step from waveform to waveform. They modify into the waveform next in the dial. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump over to the envelope driven version of the wah. Important to note that in this setting, this right toggle right here is going to determine the direction that your kind of like envelope driven filter runs. So we're going to go into the left position so that by default you are heel down and playing brings your playing up. This is going to be the release after your sensitivity threshold is crossed, and this is going to set the sensitivity of the wah. And conversely, you can jump over to the other side where this switch is now green by default, which means at the highest point, and playing will actually bring the filter down. Next up, let's take a look at the fixed wah in the center position here. In this context, you are going to use this left toggle to either be heel to toe, toe to heel, or in the middle position, you just press it to ramp to the other one where it will hold. And in this context, you're also going to use this center knob right here to determine how fast that trigger operates. So there's not a lot of secondary controls worth looking at for the fixed mode. So we're going back to envelope right now. And obviously you can set your release time with this control right here. But by activating a secondary control by pressing the right foot switch, you can take the level control and adjust your attack, which will allow us to go for a really fast attack and a really slow release. Or incredibly fast for both. Or you can really slow that attack down. So now that we're back in the auto while mode, let's go ahead and take a look at the drift control. You have this kind of toggle on the right side here, and it has 3 positions while you're in this mode. The left position is going to be a momentary mode that you kind of press and hold the left foot switch to jump to a different speed, and then when you let go, it will return. The middle position is going to be latched, where the 2 speeds are kind of like stepped between. So like you press and hold, it goes to your next speed. You press and hold, it goes back to the other speed again. And then the right one is going to be drift, which is going to be set by your drift depth and your drift speed. And this is just going to be how far your kind of tapped in tempo and a kind of an ability for this thing to kind of fail intermittently in terms of staying up with the speed happens, and how quickly it happens. So we have our kind of core sound here. And we're going to set quite a bit of drift depth, and we're going to set a moderate amount of drift speed. And then we're going to step over to that right toggle on here, and now you can see from that LED that we are kind of moving in and out of the correct speed. In this mode, you also have secondary controls for your tap tempo.